All right, so let's dive right into these financials. Looking at Opala RG Ltd's Q2 FY25 performance. You know them probably. Huge in India. Basically the Opalware people, right?
Pretty much.
Over 35 years in the game. They even brought crystal glass tech to the country, isn't that right?
Yeah, they did.
3 manufacturing facilities, network of over 200 distributors, 22,000 dealers, plus selling in like, what, 40 countries?
Or 40, yeah.
Not bad. So we're going through their financials, released just yesterday, November 14th. Unaudited statements, the auditor's review, the whole 9 yards. Even snagged their investor presentation. You ready to dig in?
Let's do it. I think it's a pretty interesting time for them, actually, like, given the whole economic picture.
Right, for sure. So first look at these numbers. Revenue's up, but just barely. 1.54% year-on-year for the quarter. Not exactly setting records.
Yeah, definitely not a huge jump.
And then if you look at the half year, it's down 6.84%. What do you make of that?
Well, it's not all about the top line, right? Got to look at the profitability, too. So PBT, that's profit before tax.
Yeah.
And PT, profit after tax. Both are up for the quarter, but down for the half year. Same pattern as the revenue. It makes you wonder what's causing these swings.
For sure, yeah. Feels a bit volatile, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And then this is a net current investment thing. Up a huge 22.88% since last year. Now, for those of us who aren't finance wizards, what does that even mean?
Basically, it means they've pumped up their short-term investments, mainly in debt mutual funds. Could be a smart move,
Yeah.
Park their cash, get some returns while they wait. But, and this is a big but, it comes with some complications, especially with the recent tax law changes.
Ooh, okay. Lay it on me. What's going on there?
We'll get to that.
Okay, all right, fair enough. So let's talk about what's happening on the ground. The report mentions lower raw material costs in Q2 compared to last year. That's got to be good news, right?
Yeah.
Cheaper stuff going in, more profit coming out.
Yeah, cheaper input costs definitely help with profitability. Probably why their Q2 profits look a bit better, even though revenue growth was so small. But there's something else, a big jump in changes in inventories of finished goods, WIP, and stock and trade. Basically, they've got a lot more stuff just sitting in their warehouses.
Yeah, that was hard to miss on the report. So are they just stocking up? Like they expect a huge sales boom later on? Or is it maybe, I don't know, a sign that sales are slower than they hoped?
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question. Hard to say for sure without a crystal ball. Could be they're gearing up for a strong second half of the year. But yeah, it could also mean sales are slowing down and they're ending up with a pile of unsold goods. Guess we'll have to see what the next reports say.
Right, right. Now, the reports don't say a whole lot about the overall market. But we can't ignore what's happening out in the world, can we? Inflation is still a thing. People are being careful with their money. What do you think? How is that affecting a company like La Opala?
Well, it has to have some impact, right? When money's tight, people maybe think twice about buying new dishes, especially if they've already got perfectly good ones. They might go for cheaper options or just not buy anything new at all. That whole trading down thing,
Yeah, I get it.
That could definitely be part of why their revenues are so up and down.
Makes sense. Okay, so we talked about the lower raw material costs, which seemed like a good thing for them this quarter. But you mentioned something a bit tricky going on with their investments.
Right. Remember that big jump in their investments? Mostly in those debt mutual funds?
Yeah.
Well, the Finance Act of 2024 kind of threw a wrench in things.
Okay, tell me more.
They changed how long-term capital gains from those funds are taxed. No more indexation benefits for funds bought before April 1st, 2023. Plus, the tax rate went from 20% with indexation to a flat 12.5% without.
So basically, more taxes for La Opala.
Yeah, pretty much. It's directly affected their deferred tax liabilities. They've had to recalculate everything based on this new, less favorable rate.
Okay, so for those of us who don't speak accounting, break it down for me. What does that actually mean for the company? And for anyone thinking about investing in them?
It means they're going to take a hit when they cash out those investments. They'll be paying way more in taxes than they originally planned. Could lead to some pretty significant cash outflow down the line. It's almost like a delayed reaction to those tax changes.
Like a ticking time bomb almost.
Yeah, kind of.
That definitely adds a whole other layer to their financial situation.
Absolutely. And it shows just how important it is to look at the big picture. You can't just focus on the current numbers in isolation. Gotta consider the potential future impact of their decisions and any regulatory changes that might be coming down the pike.
Right, so it's more like chess than checkers.
Exactly.
Okay, let's move on to something a bit more proactive. La Opala's investor presentation talks a lot about their brand strategy, expanding their reach, all that. How does that fit into this whole financial puzzle we're putting together?
Well, one thing that pops out in the financials is an increase in other expenses. This could very well be tied to their marketing and distribution costs, all those brand building efforts. You got to spend money to make money, as they say, especially when you're trying to grow.
Makes sense. But how much are they spending? And is it actually working? The report mentions a dividend payment, so they're obviously still generating cash. What do you think about the overall performance? From a shareholder's perspective, I mean.
That's the key question, isn't it? The company's definitely shown they can handle a tough economy. But if you compare their half-year performance to previous periods, it's a bit underwhelming. Lower profitability. Plus, that potential tax hit from their investments, it might make some investors question if those dividends are sustainable.
Interesting. So kind of a mixed bag then, and there's that whole thing about the company secretary resigning. Not really a financial issue, I know, but could it be a sign of something bigger going on? I mean, people at that level don't usually leave for no reason.
Yeah, you've got a point there. Changes in key personnel, especially at that level, it can definitely raise some eyebrows, something to keep an eye on. Sometimes it's just a personal thing, but it can also indicate changes in a company's direction, or maybe some internal shakeups.
Okay, so we've got the financial performance, the strategic moves, and now a little corporate intrigue thrown in. This is getting good. But I feel like we're still missing some pieces of the puzzle. The reports focus so much on the numbers. But what about the bigger picture? What else could be affecting La Opala's trajectory? I'm talking about competition, the overall tableware market, maybe even global trends.
You're absolutely right. It's like we've zoomed in on their financials. But we need to zoom out and look at the whole landscape. And you know what? There's one thing in the reports that I think gives us a clue. Remember how they keep talking about being first in their category? With the packaging, the advertising, the new designs. I think that says a lot, actually.
Yeah, they even included links to some of their TV ads in the presentation.
Right. It's like they really want to show off how they're trying to stay top of mind for consumers.
Definitely seems that way. So you're thinking they're really banking on brand differentiation. Like that's their key competitive advantage.
I think so, yeah.
That's a classic move for sure. Create a strong brand, build loyalty, and hopefully you can charge a higher price. But tableware, it's not exactly a cutting-edge tech product. How much differentiation can you actually achieve with dishes?
Yeah, that's the tough part for them. In a market where the core product, plates, bowls, cups, is pretty standard, the brand becomes even more important. It's about how people perceive the quality, the emotional connection, all that.
Right. It's more about the feeling than the actual plate itself. Makes you wonder how they're actually measuring the success of this whole brand strategy. The reports don't really dig into that, do they?
Yeah.
I feel like that's something investors would definitely want to know. Are people actually remembering the ads?
Yeah.
Choosing La Opala over other brands because of them?
Absolutely. You want to see those numbers, brand awareness, perception, even customer lifetime value. Those are the things that really tell you if their strategy is working. Like, you could have the most amazing marketing campaign, but if it doesn't actually translate into sales and loyalty, what's the point?
Yeah, totally. Okay, so brand differentiation is one piece of the puzzle. What about the competitive landscape?
Yeah.
The reports don't really get into that either. Are there new players shaking things up? Are the existing competitors upping their game?
That's a huge factor, and we definitely can't ignore it. Maybe there's some hot new brand with trendy designs, or they're undercutting everyone on price. Or maybe the existing players are getting better at targeting specific types of customers. That could be why we're seeing those fluctuating revenues we talked about.
Yeah, it could be. And of course, we can't forget about those global trends. We talked about inflation, but what about things like supply chain issues? Changes in what consumers want, even geopolitical events. Those could all have a ripple effect on La Opala.
For sure. Think about it. What if there's a sudden surge in demand for eco-friendly tableware, and La Opala isn't really in that space yet? Or maybe they rely heavily on imports for certain materials, and those supply chains get disrupted. The point is, there are so many external factors that could be affecting them, things that might not even be mentioned in their reports.
It's like trying to predict the weather, isn't it? You can look at the temperature and wind speed, but there are so many other variables that can come into play.
Exactly. That's why it's crucial to look at the whole picture. You have to consider the company's own performance, of course, but also the overall market and all those external forces that can push them off course.
Makes sense. It's like you can have the best ship in the world, but if you sail right into a hurricane, you're in trouble. You need to know what's coming and adjust accordingly. Speaking of adjusting course, this whole conversation's got me thinking. We've been analyzing La Opala from a purely financial standpoint, but what about I don't know, the bigger picture. What about their impact on society and the environment?
You mean the ESG factors?
ESG.
Yeah, environmental, social, and governance.
Right, ESG, exactly.
Yeah.
These days, it's not just about profits anymore. Consumers and investors are holding companies accountable for their environmental footprint, their social responsibility, their ethical practices, all that thing.
It's a big shift, for sure.
Right.
Sustainability and ethical behavior. They're becoming essential for any business that wants to succeed long term, and investors are starting to factor ESG into their decisions. It's not just a nice to have anymore, it's a must have.
I feel like we're hearing more and more about this lately.
Yeah, it's definitely gaining traction.
So even though Law Paula's reports don't really address these issues, it's a relevant question for any company these days, wouldn't you say? What are their manufacturing practices like? Are they sourcing materials responsibly? Do they have initiatives to reduce their environmental impact?
All critical questions. We're talking about things like carbon emissions, waste management, fair labor practices. Consumers are getting more informed. They want to know that the products they're buying are produced ethically and sustainably. And investors are looking for companies that share their values.
It's like you might have a profitable business model, but if you're harming the environment or exploiting people, it's not really sustainable in the long run.
Exactly. It's becoming clear that financial performance is only part of the story. Businesses need to show a commitment to these broader goals, social and environmental goals. It's about creating value for everyone, not just shareholders, employees, customers, communities, the planet, everyone.
This whole ecosystem, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so that's a good point. We've been talking about La Paula as this big established company, but every business starts somewhere, right? Someone has an idea, takes a risk, builds something from scratch. What can we learn from La Paula's journey, especially for people out there who are dreaming of starting their own businesses?
That's a great question. Opala's story is a classic entrepreneurial tale in a lot of ways. They saw a market opportunity, they innovated, built a strong brand, expanded their reach, but they've also faced challenges along the way. Had to adapt, make tough choices.
Right, it's never a smooth ride.
Definitely not.
And that's the thing about entrepreneurship. It's a roller coaster. Ups and downs, twists and turns, the whole deal. But the important thing is to stay focused on your vision. Be willing to learn and adapt. And never give up on your dream.
Couldn't agree more. And I think one of the biggest takeaways from Opala's story is the importance of resilience. They've been around for over 35 years, and they've weathered a lot of storms, economic downturns, regulatory changes, competition, you name it. But they've always found a way to bounce back, to innovate, to stay ahead of the game.
They've got that grit, that ability to push through adversity and come out stronger.
Exactly. And that's something that every entrepreneur needs, because building a successful business is hard. It takes dedication, perseverance, and a whole lot of resilience.
No doubt about it. But it's also incredibly rewarding, wouldn't you say?
Oh, absolutely.
There's nothing quite like seeing your vision come to life. Creating something that benefits others. Leaving your mark on the world.
You said it. And for all the aspiring entrepreneurs out there, I think Opala's story is a powerful reminder. It's not just about the financial success. It's about the impact you make, the legacy you leave behind.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Mm-hmm.
And that brings us to the heart of why we do these deep dives. It's not just about analyzing numbers and dissecting reports. It's about understanding the stories behind those numbers, the human side of business, the impact that companies have on the world around us.
Well said. It's about connecting the dots, seeing the bigger picture, and gaining a deeper understanding of how businesses work, the challenges they face, the opportunities they create.
So we've covered a lot of ground today. Opala's financial performance, their strategic initiatives, the broader market context, the importance of ESG factors. We even touched on the entrepreneurial journey and the lessons we can learn from Opala's story. But as we wrap up this deep dive, there's one final question I want to leave you with. We've been talking about their performance now, what's happening right now. But what about the future? What are the big questions for them, the things that will really determine if they make it or break it?
Yeah, that's the big one, isn't it? We've talked about their brand strategy, right? And how they need to adapt to the market changing. Plus, that whole tax thing looming over them. But I think it all comes down to a few key challenges.
Okay, lay it on me. What hurdles do they got to clear?
Well, first off, they got to show that their brand strategy is actually working. It's easy to spend money on marketing, talk about differentiating your brand, but are they actually seeing results?
Right, are they walking the walk?
Exactly. Are they gaining market share? Are they able to charge those higher prices? That's what will really tell us if their efforts are paying off.
It's like you can make a dish look all fancy, but the real test is how it tastes.
Yeah, good analogy.
So what else is on your list?
Agility. Number 2. The market's constantly changing, right? Consumer preferences are shifting, new trends popping up all the time. Can La Opala keep up? Can they adapt fast enough to stay ahead of the game?
So it's not just about steering the ship. It's about navigating through, like, uncharted waters. Got to watch out for those icebergs
Exactly.
and those rogue waves.
And then the third challenge, we already touched on this, that potential tax bomb, remember?
Oh, yeah, that's a big one.
How's that going to hit their cash flow? Will they have to change how they do dividends? Will they have to make cuts somewhere else to make up for those losses?
It's like they're playing financial Tetris, trying to make all the pieces fit without messing up the whole game.
It's a delicate balance.
So with all that on the horizon,
Yeah.
what's your overall feeling about La Opala? Optimistic? Cautious? Somewhere in between?
That's the tough part, right? Trying to make predictions in a world where anything can happen. But I think they've got a few things working in their favor. Strong brand, long history of success, and they've shown they can handle a crisis.
They've been through it all, haven't they?
They have.
But experience doesn't guarantee future success, though, does it?
No, it doesn't, but it gives them a solid base to work from. The key for them will be adaptation, innovation, making tough choices, and executing their strategy well.
So it's like they're at a crossroads. Stick to the familiar path or forge a new one.
Yeah, I like that.
And the decisions they make now will shape their future.
That's what makes this so interesting, don't you think? We're not just looking at a snapshot of their performance. It's a story that's still unfolding. Twists, turns, challenges, opportunities, the whole deal. And the best part is we get to see how it all plays out.
That's why we do these deep dives, right? We take these complex financial reports, break them down, analyze them, connect them to the bigger picture, and along the way, we learned about not just one company, but how the whole world of business works.
Like financial detectives, piecing together the clues, digging for insights, finding the story behind the numbers.
Exactly. All right, folks, that's a wrap for our deep dive into La Opala's Q2 FY25 performance. We went through their financials, their strategies, the market they're in, ESG, entrepreneurship, even a little corporate intrigue. We raised some big questions along the way. And those answers will unfold in the months and years to come. So stay curious, keep digging, and never stop asking those questions.
Couldn't agree more.
This is host speaker name
Yes.
and expert speaker name signing off.